Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN. Big UFC fights tonight. It is the featherweight interim title on the line. And on the phone right now is a guy who already has gotten UFC gold. He was previously the WEC Lightweight Champion before they merged with the UFC, then became the UFC Lightweight Champion. Now he's fighting at featherweight. Anthony Showtime Pettis. Anthony, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. You know, you have a very interesting career because you have the distinction of having the belt, the last guy in the WEC. You came to the UFC. You know, talk about what your career as a whole has been like. You've trained with some of the best fighters in the world.
Yeah, this opportunity is huge for me. I mean, for my legacy and what I set out to do. When you first start this sport, you don't know how good you really are. You believe you're the best in the world, but you got to go prove it. And I've done that twice. Cutting the extra 10 pounds. I feel like it's more of a fair playing field for me because I'm a smaller lightweight, but when I come down to featherweight, I'm one of the biggest guys on the roster. So the sacrifice to cut these extra 10 pounds is definitely some work, but for me, it's just leaving a legacy. Collecting these belts and cashing these checks.
Talk a little bit about what does go into cutting those extra 10 pounds for those out there who may not understand.
I walk around about 175 pounds, so I'm cutting down. I cut 20 pounds to make lightweight, and then I cut 30 pounds to make featherweight. And 175, I'm not a fat guy. I'm in pretty good shape. So the weight cut is probably the hardest process for me. The fight's easy. You do the time in the gym. You go over a game plan. You perfect the game plan, and you make sure you're in shape to do the game plan. But to get down on this weight, it's like a science. I had to hire a nutritionist. He's lived with me for 7 weeks, and he tells me what to eat, when to eat it, and how much calories I need to burn that day. And it's kind of a science, and I got to follow that path, or I won't make this weight. So cutting the extra 1 pound to make the 145 pound limit, because at 145 you get a pound allowance. When you're fighting for the title, you don't get a pound allowance. It's a lot of weight. It's a lot of work, and it requires a lot of discipline.
Anthony, you talked about training and getting ready for the fight. You go out of the gym where Duke Rufus is the head. You've worked with guys like Ben Askren. You also have Tyron Woodley up there. Talk a little bit about, you're a guy who's known as a striker, but you train with a lot of guys who are grapplers. How has been working with those guys in your gym helped you in your career?
Yeah, I mean, especially at the lightweight division, I think the guys at lightweight started. They don't want no part of my stand up, so they try to take me down, they try to grind me out, and helping having guys like Woodley or Ben Askren, 170-pound welterweights, doing that to me. It only helps me. It's just a good mixture, and then I give them the flashy striking style, and they get to see that. So we just help each other out, I guess. The gym has a good mixture of grapplers, strikers, and full mixed martial artists.
What do you bring into the fight with Max Holloway that you think that he's never seen or faced before?
I have his style. His style that he tries to fight. It's me. That's who he got his style from. So I know what he's trying to do. I know what he's trying to set up. I'm the bigger opponent. I'm gonna go down there cutting 10 extra pounds. I'm the bigger fighter, and I have the experience as well. I feel like I'm going to this fight very confident. This guy definitely wants to win. Everybody wants to win, but you got to go out there and make it happen that night.
UFC 206 is tonight on pay-per-view. Holloway versus Pettis for the interim featherweight championship. And Anthony, part of the reason why it's interim is because this whole weight class has basically just been in flux. Conor McGregor wins the belt. He decides to go fight everybody else but defend his title. The UFC finally takes the belt away from him. They basically promote Jose Aldo to be the champion. What is your thoughts on how the craziness around this 145-pound division, especially considering you come from a massively stacked 155-pound division?
Yeah, I think the UFC, by letting Conor McGregor fight for 2 belts, put themselves in a position where they had to do this. I mean, they had to figure out who's going to be next in line, because I'm telling you, Conor McGregor is probably very similar to my size, and cutting that extra 10 pounds is not very easy. I mean, it's not hard, but it's not easy. And if you have the belt at 155 pounds, best believe you're going to defend that before you're going to go cut the extra 10 and defend the 145-pound belt. So, they put themselves in a position where they had to do this. And, for me and Holloway, it's just an opportunity to get a guaranteed title shot.
I mentioned earlier that you were the lightweight champion. You were a guy that has never been finished. All of your fights, you've never been finished. Nobody's ever, tapped you out, knocked you out, or anything. But you did have a tough run at the end before you dropped weight class. So what led you to actually move down the featherweight?
Yeah, that run led me to move down to featherweight. I feel like it was a time in my career where guys were, definitely trying to out-game plan me. They weren't trying to finish me. They were out trying to game plan me, and they were trying to win judges' decisions. Eddie Alvarez, prime example. I mean, he held me on the cage for 3 rounds and didn't want no part of the striking. So I had to make a change, and I feel like a big part of that was sizing issue. I was a smaller lightweight, so the guys were trying to bully me around a little bit up there. So I could have bulked up and tried to become a bigger lightweight, or why not reset it and go for a new title and a new weight class? And I think it worked out.
Let's ask you a couple of questions that don't exactly have to do with MMA per se. First of all, everybody likes nicknames. Your nickname is Showtime. What's the story behind your nickname?
Duke Rufus gave me my nickname Showtime. We were fighting on the same card in Milwaukee, and he didn't get to see my fight. And he was the main event. I was a co-main event. And Milwaukee was Duke's town. Milwaukee loved Duke Rufus and watching him fighting. So I went out there and put on a crazy performance. As a co-main event, he said he heard the crowd go crazy. He went out and did his thing. We both got the wins. He watched my video of my fight. He's like, man, I'm passing the torch on. Milwaukee's your city now, and you put on a show every time you do it. So we're gonna call you Showtime. And at first it was just like a funny joke thing, and then all of a sudden, it's tattooed on my back and it's part of my life forever.
Talk about what it meant for you to be the first UFC champion to appear on the iconic Wheaties Box.
Oh man, it was an amazing opportunity. I was at the top of my career back. Last 2 years ago, I think that was. I was in the top of my career, feeling amazing. Coming off the win from Ben Henderson, defending the belt against Melendez, got to cover the Wheaties Box. I felt invincible, and then to be able to carry that torch for MMA, I think that was huge for the sport and for the sport's growing. I think there's so much more for the sport to grow into. It's just cool to have that cemented in MMA history. What
is your go-to food during training camp?
Like cheat meals or real for training camp food?
The thinking is that a lot of guys, they have their go-to thing that gets them through training camp, keeps them sane.
Tacos are my thing. So if I can get tacos in my system, I'm feeling good.
I like that answer. I could eat tacos all day long.
All day, yeah.
I mean, they're amazing, right? They're actually, they kind of feel like a cheat meal, but they're not really a cheat meal.
Yeah, I mean, besides the tortilla, it could be good ingredients. So yeah, it's not too bad.
You have a daughter. She was born a few years ago.
Yes.
You talked about how in interviews your father is your hero. Talk about the impact of having a daughter and also knowing what your father, what he means to you and how that's impacted your life.
Yeah, I mean, I lost my dad at a young age. I was 15 years old, and he was, killed in a house robbery across the street from the house we grew up in. So, losing your father like that at a young age, makes you really appreciate the time you had with him. And I think when I had my daughter, all that just poured into me, all the memories of the smiles, the laughs, and everything that I remembered at 15 years old. I was like, I'm making sure I have way more experiences with my daughter and make sure she knows how much I love her and that I'd never leave her side. And you go from thinking about yourself to thinking about this other life, and it's just a weird transition in my life.
Have you sat her down and had her watch any of your fights yet?
Yeah, she watches all of them, but she doesn't understand what it is yet. She still thinks it's a joke.
She just points at Daddy and that's it?
She's like, why are you on TV? And she's like, why did that guy hit you? Why are you letting him hit you?
Anthony, before I let you go, and I appreciate you joining me ahead of your fight, UFC 206, Holloway versus Pettis. Tell the listeners why you are going to win this fight.
UFC 206, I want this bad. I'm willing to die out there in this octagon. I put everything into the training camp. I'm ready to go. I'm going to go out there and put on a show for the fans. I always put on a show when I fight. Max Holloway tries to do the same, but I'm guaranteeing my hand being raised better than that.
Anthony Showtime Pettis, appreciate you joining me here on 97.3 ESPN. Good luck tonight in the fight, and best wishes going forward.
Thank you, bro.